Howdy, howdy, everybody. This is Jared Sterrett, and you're listening to KZCC LP 106.1 Conroe and KZCW LP 104.5 in Conroe and worldwide at OurLoneStar.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Legal Connection with Toni and Cheryl. Toni and I are Texas licensed attorneys, and we're here as a public service to help you provide information on different legal topics. We know you have lots of questions. We have clients that always have lots of questions, and you can send us your questions if you want to ask us something specifically about what we're talking about or what we have talked about on our past shows. Just email us at questions@legalconnectionshow.com. And you can check us out live on Facebook. We're live on Facebook at facebook.com/legalconnectionshow. You can also send us your questions there. So today, Toni and I are going to be talking about the Texas lemon law and buying a used car in Texas. I know I get a lot of questions, and Toni has told me that she gets a lot of questions when you buy a used car and you start to have problems with it. And the typical question is, isn't there a lemon law in Texas? Well, what consumers don't know, and we're here to answer your consumer questions as a public service, your legal questions. But what consumers typically don't know is, yes, there is a lemon law in Texas, but it doesn't apply to used cars. So, for the first part of the show, we're going to be talking about what the Texas lemon law does cover. And then in the second part of the show, we're going to be talking about buying a used car. That is not covered. The lemon law does not cover used car purchases, but there are federal things that cover used car purchases that require the dealership to notify you, the used car purchaser, of certain things. But it's very narrow, and the Texas lemon law is narrow too. So just a little bit on the Texas lemon law. All states have lemon laws, and basically lemon laws, or so-called lemon laws, protect consumers from, now here's the key language, substantial defects occurring within a specified period after you purchase. And they provide that the manufacturer either has to replace the lemon with a comparable car, or refund the full purchase price. Now, basically, and that's very narrow. It basically protects the consumer if you really purchased a lemon. Something's just wrong with that car. It's not standard problems. It's something is just recurring, and there's a substantial defect that affects the car's safety or the car's value. Okay, and it's interesting because there are, if you did have a problem, say you actually purchased a lemon, there's something wrong with this car. It keeps whining when you drive it, no matter how many times you take it into the dealership to fix the problem. The air conditioner whistles constantly. And, there are some requirements, specifications that you can actually have that addressed, and that makes that car a lemon, especially if that's supposed to be a luxury car and supposed to, create peace. There's a case, it's supposed to be peaceful and relaxing, and it just turns into a nightmare in Texas in the summer when you're trying to drive that car and the air conditioning is whistling at you. But the interesting thing is that there's approximately 15 million vehicles sold in America annually. And automakers actually repurchase approximately 50,000 vehicles a year. Now, that's not very many.
What percentage do you think that is?
We
could do the
stat
math.
says 0.33%. But I'm
not very
thinking, well, it doesn't make sense, because if 15 million, I think that's a bad stat, because if 15 million vehicles are sold annually and they only repurchase 50,000, that's not 30%.
Oh, I thought you said 3%.
3%.
Yeah,
right.
that might be 3%.
That's what it is. 3%. Yeah. So
I don't know. Do you know anybody that's ever exercised their rights to the lemon law?
I do not.
I do not. I know more people, and I get more questions about people that have bought used car from dealerships are they're deemed used cars because there's a federal law, and I have it in front of me, but basically after it has so many miles on it, it's deemed a used car.
Mm-hmm.
And they all believe that this lemon law protects them, or they've got
Right.
some kind of implied warranty.
Warranty.
And man, buyer beware. It is just a shark's world out there if you're buying used cars.
No kidding.
The stories I get over and over are, particularly in Texas, because we have laws that are very favorable to the people selling the cars.
Mm-hmm.
For you to make sure that you have examined your car, you've test driven it, you had a mechanic look at it, that you've got something in writing about warranty and its background if you question anything. Because the instant that you drive off of that lot, or you've I guess, particularly if you're buying it from a dealership, when you drive off that lot, they can actually, first, you don't have any, it's going to be very difficult for you to show the liability to the dealership if you don't take care of your end of the I guess, what am I saying, the work?
The due diligence.
The due diligence, yeah,
Mhm.
right. If you don't get, so I guess the lemon law is so important, and that's what we're going to go over a couple of cases that we've had with our own clients and some of our listener questions. But as far as the used cars go, the lemon law will not apply.
No.
All of the clients that I have that call me, and they always say the same thing.
Yeah,
I just
doesn't
bought this
apply.
car this weekend or last month.
Mhm.
You know, I was told by the person I purchased it from, or the dealership, or online, that there was nothing wrong with it. I did the check. I did the Carfax. There was nothing, no problems with it.
Right.
And then they're halfway to Louisiana, and the transmission goes out,
Right.
or the air conditioner doesn't work,
Right.
or the windows don't work. Something that
Mhm.
you would have expected a car that's fairly new but still used to work.
Mhm.
And unlike in District of Columbia and some other states, you are up, you know what creek, because if in Texas, your implied warranty is you're only going to be able to prove it if you can prove that there was something wrong with it before you left the lot or you purchased it.
Well, and the problem that we have with these lemons, these cars that are actually lemons that are replaced, to the consumer, they get a new car.
Mhm.
There are very little restrictions on what happens to those cars when they're put back in the market.
Yes.
And once you hit a state border,
Yes.
they can pretty much, sometimes they put you on notice that the car is substantially affected its value or its safety. They'll put you on notice, but that's really not followed
And
up on.
It's not that all used car salesmen, which attorneys have been referred to that,
Mhm.
we have been compared to them.
Yeah.
It's not that all used car salesmen are bad. In fact, most of them are actually pretty nice.
Right.
I knew several men that had used car dealerships, and they bought cars at auctions, and they fixed them up very well.
Right.
And no one had any problems with them, and everything was on the up and up. But that's not always the case. People get cars, and I was just going to go over a few of the scams that you have to be aware of when you buy
For the lemon
car.
laws.
Yeah. Well, lemon law is going to be for new cars.
Right.
And so you really have so many protections when you're dealing with buying a new car, because you're going to have the manufacturer's warranty.
That's right.
And these days, they'll go for maybe 6 years. You can buy the extended warranty.
Mhm.
You're going to have the warranty from the dealership. Most people know that when you go to the dealership, if they don't, they should know. They should have somebody go with them.
Mhm.
That you need to read everything very closely.
Mhm.
Have an attorney look at it. Even just fax it to your friend that's an attorney. Everybody in the world's an attorney these days.
Mhm.
Have them look at it. If they tell you when you go to finance it, the person that's selling it to you, that they need to go get approval from the financing guy and then come back, read it again, because you don't know if they've changed something.
That's right.
Very, very important.
Right.
And what happened to one of my friends not too long ago, who's also a client, he purchased two cars from CarMax. And the first one, they're both used cars. Did the background check, did the test drive, did the Carfax, got this guy is an astute businessman. He went through and he got financing on one car for his wife.
Right.
Okay. And then they made a deal with him where they said, hey, if you buy a second car, we'll get you even a better deal. And so he's like, fine. And he gave him all the stuff. He was self-employed. He gave him all the records, and they called him back 2 weeks later after he drove off the lot, gave him all the down payments, did the trade-ins, the whole bit. I
Right.
think he gave him like $4,000 for both cars for the down payments. Expensive cars, like in my opinion, $25,000 roughly a piece. And they said that the second car didn't get approved for financing, and he needed to bring it back. And he said, no, I guess I'll bring it back if you give me my money back, my
Mhm.
down payment. And they said, no,
Right.
you're not going to get your down payment back. And if you don't bring it back to us, we're going to repossess it. And so he called me, and I'm asking about this and, questioning everything. And I got with CarMax, and CarMax basically said, well, we don't think he was honest on his application, and it went through a different financing company, so we're repossessing it. And they were just adamant. Ultimately, I had to file a suit against CarMax, and he's got his car right now. But you can't. You have to be strong, and you have to know your rights. And he left the lot without a final approval.
Mhm.
And CarMax basically said, we've got the title, and we're
Right.
going to come repo it. And they send the repo guys out.
Yeah.
And this is an astute businessman, a very well-off
And
businessman.
CarMax. I mean, you would think CarMax wouldn't.
Yes.
Well, it's been known to happen that the consumer leaves the old car as a trade-in,
Mhm.
and they just need a signature, which sounds kind of like what you're talking
Mhm.
about. They just need a signature from some manager that's higher up. It's just a mere formality. And then
Mhm.
guess what? They leave their car as a trade-in, and they drive off with a new car,
Mhm.
and then their credit's not approved.
Right.
So now they've sold the car that
Yeah,
the
right.
customer
Mhm.
brought in as a trade-in,
Mhm.
and the consumer is stuck with a new car at a higher payment
Higher
because their
rate,
credit
higher
supposedly.
payment, or you're subject to not getting your title because they're going to hold it or repossess it if you don't make your payments. And here's another thing. If you tell, like with my guy, I had advised him to go ahead and make all the payments. They wouldn't accept his payments. They said, we don't care if you've made the payments because we're not approving you for the loan. Now, he was current on his payments. He had the car. Everything was good to go. The guy was like I say, he was a good guy. We've known him for a long time. And they said, we don't care. We're not approving the loan. And we're calling the note. You owe us basically after all of the financing was done, you owe us about $23,000. And if you don't give us the car back, there's going to be attorney's fees on top of that. And ultimately resolved it, and he kept the car. But this is the threats that they give you. We're not going to give you your title.
Right.
And it was all, and he was basically approved as far as he knew when he drove off the lot. And that's just not the case.
And so it's really the problem is that he drove off the lot without having everything signed by everybody that needed
But
to be
he
signed.
understood late Saturday afternoon that he was approved. They gave him the car. They charged him the prep fees. It would be like you and me buying a car. He believed that he had just bought this car. And I will tell you this, my brother-in-law used to sell used cars at a really good dealership. And I've never heard any horror stories from him. And so you've
Right.
got good guys and you've got bad guys.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. But you've got to protect yourself because you
Mhm.
can't rely on somebody that you don't know selling you a car. That's what they
Mhm.
do. Okay, so I wanted to go into some of the used car buying scams.
Well, before we do that, let's wrap up
Let's
the
find
lemon
out.
law. Let's talk about the new cars and how the lemon law applies. Say, for example, you get a new car and it really is a lemon.
Right.
You got a crummy car. It
Mhm.
keeps breaking down. The dealer is allowed some reasonable attempts to fix your car.
Okay.
You got this brand new car.
Mhm.
It's covered by all this warranty, but
Let's
it's a
use an
lemon.
example. What? Let's use the kind of car that you would buy new. What would that be?
I don't know.
Your Ferrari?
No, don't like Ferraris. I don't like that beep sound that Ferraris make. I don't. Everybody thinks that's cool, but it would drive me nuts.
And went to the Ferrari museum, and
Yeah,
we
well,
love that.
yeah, I don't like that. A new BMW,
Yeah, let's
say
go with
say
this.
you buy a new BMW. It's brand new and it's covered by all the
I'm a Mercedes
warranties and all
girl, but
that.
okay, I'll go with BMW.
And something just the car keeps breaking down. You
Yes.
keep hearing this clanking in the engine and
BMWs don't clank.
okay, but let's pretend like it's a lemon and it's
Okay.
clanking. And so it's clanking.
more likely your
clanking.
electric system is giving you all kind of signals in your dash that are saying all kinds of
Yeah,
things
it's
are wrong.
flashing. It's
Okay.
flashing.
And
It's
your
warning
car
you.
shuts down when those things start flashing. If you've got a Mercedes
right.
or BMW.
Right. The
Okay.
car just shuts down. Power to the engine is off. So you take it in. If it's a safety issue, the dealer is allowed one attempt.
Okay.
If it's a safety issue, if you're driving down the street and the car just
Okay.
shuts down, or you're on the highway going 70 and the car shuts down, that's a safety issue, right? So the dealer is allowed one attempt to fix the car.
Okay.
If it just applies, and not just, I mean, it's significant because
Mhm.
we're talking about resale value and all that, but if it affects the car's value,
Mm-hmm.
then the dealer is allowed some reasonable attempts, and that's kind of where it gets murky.
Okay.
What are reasonable attempts?
Uh-huh.
So we've got the 4 times test. We've
Uh-huh.
got the serious
Now,
safety.
what's the 4 times test?
We've got the serious safety hazard test, and then we got the 30-day test.
Okay. What are those 3?
So the 4 times test is if you've taken the car to the dealer 4 times for the same defect.
Okay.
Um, or within the first
2
2
times
years,
defect.
or yeah, I know. The dealer gets a lot of breaks, really, and it's a big hassle to the consumer.
As long as you're getting a loaner car, I guess it doesn't matter, and they're pretty quick about, or maybe they drop it to your house. But 4 times is
Right.
a little extensive.
And the problem continues to exist.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's within the first 2 years or 24,000 miles.
Mhm.
And the problem continues. That's a 4 times test.
Mhm.
The serious safety hazard test is if there's a life-threatening malfunction that substantially impedes your ability to control or operate the vehicle, like for what we were talking about. It just shuts down. You can't operate it. You can take it into the dealership 2 or more times to repair the serious safety hazard. And it also is often the first 2 years or 24,000 miles, and the problem continues to exist. And then the 30-day test is if your vehicle is in the shop or out of commission for 30 days. That doesn't have to be contiguous days. It can be 5 days here, 20 days there. Then that's another test. And then after that, if you qualify for one of these tests, that your car has been out of commission, or you've taken it in 2 times for a serious safety issue, or 4 times you've taken it back for this same thing, then what will happen is you and the automaker and the dealer will go to arbitration. And
Well, I would think that that's relative. That'll be subject to whatever the contract is when you bought it, but arbitration clauses are probably written into the new
They
car
are.
sales contract.
they are. And some states just have arbitration just for this. It's so common.
Is Texas?
Does Texas? I don't know. I mean, Texas is not
See, I'm
big.
calling you on it.
Well, does it?
A lot of the I think it all goes to the contract. I don't think Texas.
Well, of course
has-
it does.
yeah.
It goes to the contract,
Right.
and I'm
So-
sure it's written in the contract.
And I would say, I don't know if we actually manufacture any cars in Texas. They're mostly Detroit, or they're going to be in Italy or France or whatever. But almost all of the new car contracts that I've seen have an arbitration clause.
I think we manufacture GMs.
In Texas?
Yeah, Arlington,
in-
Texas.
I guess they would be Texas, but I'm
No.
just thinking that. I guess, does Arlington have a plant?
Yeah,
GM?
yeah,
See, we don't have any in Houston, to my knowledge.
yeah. We manufacture cars in Texas.
Okay.
But as far as arbitration, they would go to arbitration. And it's important for our listeners to know that the automaker and the dealer is going to argue that the consumer didn't keep it up with its
Maintenance.
maintenance, didn't keep it up with that. So it's very important for our listeners to know that they need to keep all their records.
Yeah, but you're talking to the few listeners that actually buy brand new cars. I don't know anyone that buys brand new cars.
Well, but that's what the lemon law applies to. It
yeah.
applies to brand new cars.
So all people buying used cars, remember, you can't scream lemon law. It doesn't work. And you can't say 3-day rule. That doesn't work.
Right.
3-day, you can't say after 3 days, I can go back because you gave me a raw deal. That's just not the way it is unless you've got some warranty. So you better get in writing whatever your warranties are. And but before you leave with that car, before you part with your money, because you're not going to get your money back unless you've got some proof. And so you have to be very, very careful when you're buying a used car, no matter how pretty it looks. It's like a real pretty girl. It looks great on the
Right.
outside,
Yeah.
but the inside sometimes is just corroded and damaged. And so you need to go through all of that due diligence to make sure that you're covered. Particularly if you think that that they're selling you a bad car, especially the ones that have come on the market like after Katrina and after the flooding situations that we've had. So that goes to
Exactly. Yeah, that could be something, and that they don't have to give you much notice for those things.
Well,
I
no,
mean,
they do, but they actually have to do it to tell you it's fraud if they don't tell you
Well,
it's been in the flood.
there aren't strict requirements that are followed. It's not high on their list for used cars.
Right.
For new cars, it's different.
Well, that's why everybody knows when you buy. That's what we are telling women and guys that
Yeah.
don't sell cars, and I think all the guys I've ever known have been car aficionados. Almost every guy from the time that they're 15 or 16 that I had any dealings with has been familiar with buying used cars, selling used cars, the mechanics of it, fixing them. I almost don't know any guys that haven't kind of I guess dabbled in it a little bit.
Right.
Not that they're good.
No, but they know.
They do. And it's
And
not
women-
a girl thing. We just rely on guys to show up in the really pretty car and take us out and we
Right.
go off
And help us when we need to buy a
yes,
car.
and fix it when we have flats.
But the lemon law applies to cars, trucks, motorcycles, motorhomes. All-terrain vehicles are covered, and some demonstrator vehicles, and cars that are under the manufacturer's warranty, some extended warranty, but not an extended service contract.
Right. But you get those calls, those little robo calls that your house when you've got a 10-year-old car.
Right. And I want to say this too, that if you do go to arbitration, it's better if you're represented by an attorney. Attorneys don't have to be present, but they know how to argue with the auto manufacturers who say, well, doesn't affect the safety of the car. It doesn't affect the car's value.
Yeah.
You didn't follow up with your
I have a couple of people that went
maintenance.
to arbitration on their own, and they did really well, but they were like on top of the game. They asked for legal advice before going and what to argue.
Right. Yeah.
And you have to really determine before you go to arbitration if it's binding or not. The binding arbitration, oh my gosh, by all means, do all your homework, get an attorney if you can.
Yeah.
Because it's binding. It's like a
Yeah.
trial. You're stuck
Yeah.
with it.
That's right.
Non-binding is like a mediation, and you can pretty much just say, I'm walking away from this, and I will. I guess once you don't settle, you have some ability to go to a real court. And arbitration is a real court, but it's just more expensive, and it's a little bit biased. You don't know who. If you're going to an arbitration like through the dealership,
Yeah.
you're probably going to the same one that Ford, Honda, the dealerships have used before.
Yeah.
And so they know that the players on the car dealership side.
Mhm.
So you're at a disadvantage.
And arbitration is typically binding on the manufacturer, but not binding on the consumer.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Now, where did you learn that?
Well, I did my research for this show.
Well, that's good.
Typically binding
not
on the
binding on the
manufacturer,
consumer.
but not binding on the consumer. So that's interesting. So having said all that, I guess we'll go to break. And then when we come back, we'll talk about used cars, which is
Yes.
really what
I
we
thought you
wanted
said
to
you talk
focus
about me.
on.
Talk about you.
We'll talk about you and used cars. We will be right back. The Legal Connection Show with Toni and Cheryl after the break.
This is Dick.
This is Chris. And we're with the Ticket Stub Podcast every Thursday live at noon on 104.5 and 106.1 FM in the Conroe area. Also, anytime at irlonestar.com. You go to irlonestar.com/TTS. You can find all of our social media.
And don't forget, we give away 2 tickets to the Grand Theater on every show.
If you like movies and you like complaining or celebrating anything that has to do with the silver screen, check out the Ticket Stub Podcast and join us every Thursday at noon o'clock on Lone Star Community Radio.
Path to the Plate is a research-based education program that helps consumers understand how their food choices impact their health by making the connection to agriculture, learning about how food is grown and produced, and how consumers can make better food choices for themselves and their families. Path to the Plate is all about dispelling myths and misconceptions. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5 and 106.1 and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Welcome back to the Legal Connection Show with Toni and Cheryl. Toni and I are here today talking about the Texas Lemon Law, and now we're going to talk about buying used cars and what to do, what to think about when you're buying a used car, because there's not a lot of protections for consumers that buy used cars
Buyer
that have.
beware is a caveat emptor. It is the most important thing that you have to realize when you're buying a used car.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to defer here over to our station manager. Have you ever bought a used car?
No.
You've never bought a used car?
No.
Have
Well,
you ever
but
bought a
Toni,
new
you
car?
said everybody mostly buys used
Yes,
cars.
I did. I'm surprised. Have you ever bought a new car?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you are the person that I didn't even know existed. A young guy that's never bought a used car. Okay, so how many new cars have you bought?
I've bought one.
Okay, so you bought one new car, and I guess I'm curious. What is the make and model?
It is a Ford Focus 2000, I want to say 10.
Okay, so you've had it for a while then.
Yeah.
So you got a good deal. You're
Yeah.
still driving your Ford Focus?
Yeah.
Yeah, good for
Wow.
you. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so you have not had any problems with your car then?
No.
So this show means
Good.
nothing to you.
No.
Okay.
Oh We know that's not true.
I will say this: I get so many calls on people that are, halfway to, BFE, and they're like, "My car broke down."
What is BFE?
It's a bad word.
Blah
Don't
blah
worry
blah
about
blah blah. Like, on your way to Egypt, but I always think of it going halfway to Dallas.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's a bad word. Now, he knew that.
Yeah.
For being on the radio. Okay. Here's what you need to know. What are your legal rights when you buy a used car? When you buy a used car from a dealer, you have the right to receive a car that runs, that can be driven safely, and that is reasonably reliable. And that right is called an implied warranty of merchantability. The problem we have with that in Texas is that is your right, but if you cannot prove that if anything went wrong, that it went wrong before you bought it, then it doesn't apply, because that's the he said, she said. Well, it was fine, and then I can't help that you bought an older car, you drove off the lot, and now the windows don't roll down. So that's when you need to get something in writing, because you may question it. That's why as is not, the implied warranty is something you can fight in court, but will it be worth it when you're buying a $2,000 car
Right.
that you need $2,000 worth of work on?
Right.
Okay? Get this question all the time.
Yeah,
If there's a problem with the car that prevents you from operating it or operating it safely, then the dealer, if they sold you the used car, is legally required to fix it, provided you have some kind of a written warranty and it wasn't as is, or you can prove this implied warranty of merchantability. All right. If the dealer cannot or will not fix the problem, you have a right to return the car for a refund or receive some money back, provided that you had that warranty if it's a used car. All right. Generally, the greater the mileage on the car and the older the car and the less expensive the car, the more serious a defect must be before you have a right to have the dealer fix it. And the more likely it is when you buy a used car that there's going to be a problem.
And so, like, for example, what do you mean by that? The more serious the defect needs to be before you
Right.
have.
If you're buying a 10-year-old car
Mhm.
and the transmission goes out the day after you bought it,
Right.
and if you had no warranties on it, it's a 10-year-old car, and there's a high likelihood that the manufacturer's warranty's out, that it's never been replaced. You should have known that you were buying a car whose transmission may not be in the best of shape or may need to be replaced.
Just because of the age of the car and the price of the car, that
If it
puts
was
you on notice.
well, yeah, if you bought
Yeah.
if the car was valued at, say, 50,000 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and you're buying it for 4,000 now,
Yeah.
you're buying basically the wheels. You're hoping it works. If you've got a mechanic that looked at it, it may work. And I know that our car's got about 400,000 miles on it, and it's over 10 years old.
Your car's got 400.
400,000, and it's I will just big shout out to Chevy Tahoes. This car drives like a dream.
Wow.
We've had very few problems with it. We maintain it, like you were saying. We change the oil. We keep up with it. That car drives like a dream. And one of the Chevy dealerships that we talked to said if we could get it to 1 million miles, that Chevy would give us a new car if we could keep it up. But we maintain that thing like I maintain my own Bate,
Yeah.
at 58.
Yeah.
I'm just maintaining it all the time. I put good food in it. I'm exercising, the whole thing. So you do the same thing for your car, and it'll last a lot longer. But if somebody bought that car from us and they didn't check it out, it could be that the transmission will go out tomorrow.
Right.
There's no guarantee, especially when they buy it with so old.
Mhm.
So you're taking that into consideration when you're buying a car for that price. You should know that you can't get something for nothing. Right?
Well, and also we have the used car rule that requires manufacturers to put the buyer's guide on a used car window that states whether this car is as is or it's
or
under
the
warranty.
seller, not the manufacturer, because the manufacturer wouldn't have seen the car.
Well, I mean the seller,
Right.
the dealer, the one who's selling the car,
Right.
to put the buyer's guide on the window that clearly states whether the car is being sold as is or it's under warranty.
Right. But what if you buy like on the internet or from your next door neighbor, or a car that's
Then you
called-
need to check out the buyer's guide
You-
because they're required, and it's a federal law too, that they've
or
got to
anybody
post.
selling a buyer a used car.
Exactly. Even an individual needs to tell you whether it's as is or under warranty, how
Right.
the car is being sold.
And how many times has a person you're buying it from sold it with a warranty on it? I guess they could.
Yeah, but I think it's rare.
Yeah.
I mean, why would they if they don't have
I've-
to?
Every single car I've ever seen on the side of the road is as is.
Right.
They can't because they
Right.
just don't know.
But it puts the buyer on notice. So you need to understand when you purchase that used car that there needs to be a notice. And if there's a warranty, they've got to tell you about it.
Mhm.
But typically, there is not going to be a warranty on a used car.
Right. So, and that goes to the next set of rights. You don't have the right to a used car that runs like a new car, or to use a car that is free of defects, to a used car that is free of defects, because you're buying a used car,
Mhm,
okay?
right.
Unlike our station manager who had did the right thing, buying a brand new car. And did you check it out or test drive it when you bought it?
Yes.
And did you do your research in the Consumer Protective Report?
Yes.
Okay, so you did all the right things. You're so smart.
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody do like he does, act like he acts. Because he did the right
Right.
thing. He's got
Well,
a car
right.
that's, it looks like it's going on 10 years old.
Almost.
Yeah, I've been taking
yeah.
care of it, doing
Yeah.
all that maintenance and things like that.
You're
So
smart. You're a lucky fiance.
Mm.
Okay. I will say that I will give a shout out to my own husband. Our cars run very well. He picked good cars.
Good.
so he doesn't feel like he's not being respected just because our Chase station manager has been so wise, like Solomon, who they didn't
Right.
have cars in, I guess. Now, what if the dealer says, or if the used car seller says that they can take your word for the good condition of the car?
Yeah.
Remember that spoken promises are difficult to enforce. So have your cell phone out and be recording it. As an attorney, you can record if you're not an attorney and not let them know you're recording in Texas. And that goes
Yeah.
for everything.
But if it's not in writing,
Yeah.
you know,
But you can enforce it if it was a statement. That's still an enforceable
that's hard.
contract.
It's hard
That's
to
a
do.
promise. It's hard. That's why you get your cell phone out these days. Ask the ask the seller to put all promises in writing.
That's
Very
right.
important.
That's what I was just saying.
Um,
Needs to be in writing.
Now, how do I know whether other warranties apply to the car? Used car dealers are required by federal law to post a buyer's guide in every used car that they offer to sell. But remember, that's used car dealers. That's not an individual. The buyer's guide contains, and you pay a premium to a used car dealer because they're not an individual, and so you have more rights with them.
Right.
The buyer's guide contains important information for consumers, including whether the car comes with a written warranty. If a dealer is offering used cars that do not have buyer's guide posted on them, you should consider going to
Report them.
another dealer.
right.
Okay. So
Mhm.
CarMax, being a used car dealer, would have to have this buyer's guide in it. So they've done a little research for you, and you're going to pay a little higher than you'd pay somebody off the street, which is another reason why if the person on the street's telling you, well, you can get it over here at CarMax for the same price. Well, no, you're not getting the same benefit because you don't have the same laws that apply to somebody off the street. So they should be selling it to you for a little bit cheaper. Now,
Mhm.
what if I signed a paper saying I was purchasing the car as is? A dealer might ask you to sign a document saying that you're purchasing the car as is, and they usually do.
Right.
Remember that a dealer is not allowed to sell a car as is in some states, but in Texas, you can.
Mhm.
Okay. So you might want to buy your as is in a state that has it.
Right.
For example, in District of Columbia, if you want to go all the way up and visit, Trump and buy your car up there,
Right.
they can sell. They can actually sell. The dealer is not allowed to sell the car as is. They got to tell you about the warranties, implied warranties. what have
Right.
you. So you may want to go. I don't know if they have in Louisiana, but you might want to go to a different state. But we love Texas. We think you can still get a good deal if you do your homework.
Right.
So what can I do if the dealer refuses to honor a warranty? Very important. Like question we get all the time. The
Right.
dealer says, "You did it. It's not my problem." Okay.
Mhm. It's your fault.
That you drove it's not my fault that the engine blew out halfway to Baton Rouge
Mhm.
because you bought it from me, and buyer beware, right?
Mhm.
If the dealer refuses to make the repairs that they are legally required by a written warranty or by an implied warranty, then you can sue the dealer for up to $10,000 in small claims court in Texas, and you can take them to a county or district court,
Mhm.
or even if it's a different state and there's I guess there's a diversity of the party
Jurisdiction.
for the jurisdiction, you can sue them in federal court, and I've seen that quite a bit. The problem is if you've got a contract that says you have to arbitrate, you can't
Right.
sue them until you go through the arbitration process.
Right.
So read your contract carefully before you buy from a dealer.
Right.
The small claims court is designed to allow ordinary people to bring small cases without the help of an attorney.
Mhm.
So if you have a case that's under 10,000, you think the repairs are under 10,000, that
Mhm.
you can prove because you had your cell phone, it was recorded. Go to small claims court. It doesn't cost that much to sue them. You just can't roll over and play dead. If you got a bad deal, don't let them rip you off. You've got to stand
Yeah.
up for your rights.
Mhm.
Now, what are the laws that may help me in my case against a dealer? Well, the consumer protection laws in the state of Texas, and you can find these in the DMV or the DPS, all of the places where you can go. You can contact an attorney. You can contact us if you want to.
Right.
Contact us on Facebook. We can direct you on what the laws are for it, but there are many, many laws that will protect you if someone doesn't satisfy their implied warranties under the DPTA and are the express warranties that are under the contract. What are some questions I should ask the salesperson about the used car? And there's many of them.
Well, there sure are.
Did the dealer get the car as a trade-in or in an auction? Ask them this question specifically. Have your recorder. Hold them to it. If the dealer got the car at an auction, the dealer may not know much about the car's history. So get a Carfax. They're really inexpensive.
Right.
It's only like $15
And
to go
quick
online
and
get
easy.
it. Yes.
Right.
If the dealer got the car at an auction, did the car come through a line on a green light, yellow light, or red light? A green light means the seller denied knowing of any frame damage, water damage, or problems with the car's title. A yellow light or red light means there's a problem with the car. Okay. If the dealer got a car as a trade-in, does the dealer have the former owner's service orders and repair tickets? Ask for them. Does the person you're buying it from, did they have that? They can get it from the person they bought it from if they were only the first or the second owner.
Okay, Toni. So, what is your advice if the consumer goes to the car dealer and they have this list of questions and they ask them? I mean, I can imagine the salesperson saying, "I don't know whether
Ask
it
them
came
to get it. If they want the sale, then you walk away until they get it.
Yeah.
You don't need the car that bad. Do not do what I did when I was 18 years old. I drove my beautiful 1976 TR6, and it was only 4 years old at the time. I basically let that thing roll into a dealership, and it was the cutest little convertible you ever saw because the brakes were out, and I didn't have any guys helping me at the time. You know, I hadn't even hardly dated anybody, and I just thought that they'll do the right thing. I expected people that were always going to be honest and true.
Right.
No, they traded my beautiful TR6 that I'd saved up all my money you can imagine as a key punch operator for 4 years at $3 an hour to buy for, I think I got it for like $6,000 at the time. That was probably like $20,000. I loved this car. And they took it as a trade-in. They gave me a Sunbird at a Pontiac Sunbird. So I got a dumpy family car
Right.
at a high interest rate that it was the lemon law should have applied because it was new and it didn't. And I don't remember my life being the same after that. Nothing was the same. It was
So-
like, it was the sun had gone away. Just
So hold their feet to the fire. When you have
Yes.
these questions, don't be intimidated by evasive answers.
don't buy their just trust me language and don't fall in love with what the car looks like or anything. You're not in that much of a hurry for a car. There's a gazillion of them out there.
No kidding.
You want to ask them if the car's been involved in an accident. A lot of people trade cars in after they've been in an accident.
and
ask.
Carfax will tell you that.
Carfax will tell you that, but what if they didn't report that? And what if the dealer knew and it was hidden very well? What if it's the person selling it to you because their sister-in-law owned it, and it was in a car accident, and they've got a body shop guy that's a brother-in-law, and you just don't know.
Right.
So you need to ask and get on recording, because if you find out later that it was because you didn't do the test drive and you didn't get somebody to look at it, then it's your own fault. Okay. May I test drive the car? Please do test drive the car and get somebody that knows something about cars to test drive it with you. May I have the mechanic's inspection report? If you don't have a mechanic, if you don't know a mechanic, may I have a mechanic inspect the car? If you don't know a mechanic, ask the local American Automobile Association, the AAA, chapter for a list of mechanics to look at the car at the shop.
Right. To recommend
Don't
one. for
drive
you.
that car off without
Absolutely.
make sure you do your homework like our station manager did. Look at the consumer reports, find out how bad it is. Does the car come with a warranty? Get it in writing. Will the dealer put it in warranty? Any other promises in writing? If they won't, walk away.
Right.
Okay, now we have to take a break. I get
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah. Research the upkeep of the cost for the models you're interested in.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that you need to do, and we'll talk about that more after the break. The Legal Connection Show with Toni and Cheryl, talking about Texas lemon law and used cars. We'll be right back after the break.
Have a legal question? Are you a resident of Montgomery County? Call 281-645-6344 to talk to a volunteer attorney from the Woodlands Bar Association. We answer the phones on the first Monday of every month at 281-645-6344 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. to provide general legal information and information about legal resources to Montgomery County residents.
Hey, Montgomery County and online listeners. Thank you so very much for checking out Jazzy Vibes with Soul. What? You haven't done so yet? Well, you've got to tune in. Hi, I am the host of Jazzy Vibes with Soul, Miss CC Holmes, and I invite you to check us out every Friday and Saturday from 7 until 9 p.m., where you will get the best in old school R&B and, of course, a little smooth jazz to make it jazzy. So tune in. That's right, tune in every Friday and Saturday right here on Conroe's 104.5 and 106.1 FM or worldwide at irlongstar.com.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your question. Get seen on TV or YouTube and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Sponsor your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back to the Legal Connection with Toni and Cheryl. Toni and I are talking about Texas lemon law today, and we're talking about purchasing used cars. And that's really kind of the focus of when the lemon law applies and doesn't apply. It does not apply to used car purchases unless there's some sort of extended warranty and the dealer was on notice that there was some sort of issue going on with the car, but it's very narrow.
And we were talking on the break about just the heartbreak of my first car, my beloved, beautiful cherry red convertible TR6, my English racing car. I saved all my money. I worked 15-hour days, key punching at $3 an hour with no overtime to save up for this car. And my dad checked it out, and he was, knew all about that kind of thing and test drove it. And I loved this car. I got personal plates on it that said Tony T, and I was cheerleading for the Oilers at the time. And, I was just, I just assumed everything was good. My life was just cheery and happy, and the sun was always out. Everything's, sunny in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And the brakes went out, and I had put all these extra trim on it, and, I'd done all these things like a guy. I was a guy about this car. And I took it to the Renaissance Festival when that first was developing, and I took it to college to visit with my friends. And this car was just my dream car. And then the brakes went out. And I didn't know anything about fixing cars. And my dad, I was living on my own, and I didn't really know. And I just thought it was going to be really expensive to fix the brakes on this English car.
Right.
And so it basically rolled into the dealership with me, and they convinced me to trade this thing in for $1,500 value.
Wow.
My beloved convertible red TR6, which I still want one, like with the wooden dashboard and the whole bit. And the car I got, the Sunbird, was it was a lemon. I mean, you just don't know. I was very naive. I trusted everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And just like we were saying on the break, you don't know these things when it's like when you're a naive young girl, you trust everybody. And it took, to my third husband to know what to look for in a husband. And it's taken to my, fifth car to know what to look for and the questions to ask for in a car. And
to be persistent and don't take evasive answers.
Yes, and don't just don't take what people tell you as the truth, because as well-meaning as they are, people have a lot of vices. Money's important. They're trying to feed their families. They do what they need to do.
Right.
It may be a little white lie to them, but it's your car. You're going to be stuck on some, halfway, in Centerville on 45 with no place to go. And that kind of goes toward used car buying scams.
Scams, right.
And so I'm going to ask our station manager, do you know of any used car buying scams?
None that come to my mind.
Okay. Well, we're going to go over a few of them. Title washing was the first one that came up. Do you know what title washing is?
No.
Okay. Title washing is a scam, one that gets rid of a salvaged vehicle's salvage status. When somebody gets in a wreck and their car is damaged, the insurance company buys it back for salvage value. People don't know this, but you can actually negotiate with the insurance company and keep the car, provided that it's a salvage title, and you can pay them for the same thing that they would sell it for. We didn't learn that until Jim's beloved, another red convertible, his 66 Mustang, was recently totaled, even though it didn't seem like it should have been. And he was offered the opportunity to buy it back for its salvage value. So he could have gotten the insurance for what the damage was and still buy this car back for its salvage value, which we elected not to do. But and just got the car so we can buy another.
Was it a lot less than what
It was
the insurance
yes.
paid?
No, the insurance paid us quite a bit. We were
Right. So they paid, but and the salvage value
the
was it a
salvage
lot
value
less?
was very low. We could have kept
Really?
the body of that car and everything and had this beautiful car if we wanted to fix it up, but it was salvage. Okay, this is what happens though. Vehicles that have been repaired after serious car wrecks or natural disasters, such as floods, take on a salvage value status. While not all salvage value vehicles are nightmares, buyers do want to know what they are taking on when buying one.
Right.
You can buy a car for salvage value,
Sure.
but you're not going to get insurance on it unless it's a salvage value insurance. And it's not safe. It'll never get inspected until it gets back up to par. So the inspection, it's no longer considered a salvage vehicle. And that would be something about how you fix that up. And I'm not a car person that fixes salvage cars. I just know that when you buy a salvage car, you better know what you're buying. However, by title washing, the seller can hide the fact that the title has been through any sort of damage, whether that be a flood for Hurricane Ike, the recent floods that we have, and it happens
Harvey.
all the time, Harvey, someone being in a severe wreck, they can hide it. And the way they do that, after I was reading about it, is they can market the car to another state and they can hide the title and it comes back into the state when they buy it back with a non-salvage status. And so, but if you do your homework, you can research the car all the way back to its original. You can go to the DMV and you can ask for those records and you can research it all the way back to its manufacturing.
Okay.
And you need to do that because any sign that it was salvage, and you should know if they're giving it to you for a really good deal, then too good of a deal, a deal that's, an offer you can't refuse kind of deal, then it's probably something where the title has been tampered with. So be very, very careful about that. Title washing is I think insurance companies can find that out, but you can do your own homework very easily. You don't need to be an attorney to look that up. The next thing is what's called curb stoning. Have you ever heard of that?
Never.
Okay. And station manager Dick, have you ever heard of curb stoning? Me either. Curb stoning scams involve car dealers posing as private sellers to avoid national and state regulations related to buying and selling used cars. We're not talking about the big people. We're talking about small dealerships.
That
They're
buy
everywhere.
at the auction.
The
or
ones off
something.
75 here, lots of them. Often these
And
dealers.
this is called curb stoning?
And you'll know why in a second. Often these dealers will post advertisements selling the vehicles as if they were owners themselves.
Right.
And what they do is they put it on the curb. And they can move the title into their own name. They haven't taken title into the dealership name. And a lot of times they don't have to do that because it moves really fast. And they put it on the curb like they're a private seller. And you think you're working with a private seller and you're not.
Yeah.
And they avoid a lot of the paperwork and the things that they have to disclose to you by doing that. So be very aware of that. You may be buying from a fraudulent transaction from an actual dealer or a small dealer. It's not that hard to be a dealer in Texas if the car's on the side of the curb and they're just saying, selling the car there. All right. Before you buy a car from a private seller, check to make sure the seller's driver's license matches the name of the car on the title. Okay. Odometer fraud is one of the big ones. You see it all the time. An odometer fraud scam occurs when someone has tampered with the vehicle's odometer to make it look as though the vehicle has lower mileage. Although digital odometers were once thought to be less susceptible to tampering, they're actually just as easy to manipulate. So don't fall for that. It says, whenever possible, ask for vehicle maintenance records from the used car you're considering and try to match up the records to the actual current odometer reading. Okay. So if you ask for the records, just do your homework. If you're buying it from somebody who's only the first or the second owner, and like station manager Dick, many people that like their cars keep them for a long time. If there's been a wreck, it's going to turn over many, many times. If there's problems with it, it's turning over many times. So do your homework and ask for those maintenance records and do the Carfax. Check the title yourself in the DMV. Do not get sucked into buying something right away because you're in a hurry or you just feel like it's the deal of the century. It's never the deal of the century.
That's always the problem. or
Escrow
typically
scams.
The problem.
When a seller puts an escrow scam, he's directed you to deposit money into a fake escrow account. Once the money arrives, the seller and the vehicle disappears. Do not put your money into a fake escrow account. All those Nigerians that say, just put it right here. It's the best deal ever. Don't fall into it. Perhaps the best way to avoid an escrow scam is to do all business face-to-face, including the exchange of money. If you must use an escrow account, make sure you have used a secure payment network for all these email sales. Fake certified used cars. Don't fall into that scam. Simply put, legitimate certified used cars can sell for more than those that are uncertified. Protect yourself from this scam by understanding that certified used cars come from franchise dealers only. lowball price scams,
Yeah.
open retail scams, warranty scams. There's all kind of scams. Just be careful.
Yeah. Well, so this has been good. We've been talking about Texas lemon law and purchasing used cars. And I just think that, the take home message needs to be if you're purchasing a used car, well, if you purchase a used car and you get a lemon, you have the Texas lemon law available to you.
A new car.
But if you purchase a used car, do your due diligence, do
Lemon
your
law does not
homework.
protect you. The 3-day rule does not protect you.
No, it doesn't.
Get it in writing. Ask for all the records. Do a test drive. Get a mechanic to look at it
That's
at
right.
the dealership or whoever you bought it from before you exchange any money.
Exactly. And make sure that any promises are in writing.
Just like with the house, if you want them to hold it, you give them just a small fee to hold it, maybe $100 to take it off the market long enough. Because if it's that great of a deal, they'll sell it really quick later.
Right. And we want to remind you to
serve God by serving others.
That's right. Reach out to us, questions at legalconnectionshow.com. We're here every Tuesday from 12 to 1 on 104.5 and 106.1 Conroe's FM or irlonestar.com. We'll see you next week, guys.